You're cruising 7 miles above the planet, and yet you're breathing like you're on a beach. But what's actually in that air? Outside your window, it's a different universe, 60 below zero. Air so thin your lungs would give up after one gasp. You'd pass out in seconds if that metal shell cracked open. But inside? You don't feel a thing. Warm. Calm, breathing easy. So here's the real question. What are you pulling into your lungs up there? Commercial jets fly between 30 and 40,000 feet. The upper troposphere. That sweet spot where turbulence is rare and weather stays calm. Perfect for flying, terrible for breathing. At sea level, air pressure holds steady. Up here, it crashes to barely a quarter of that. Oxygen still exists, but your body can't grab it. Your lungs just can't push enough into your blood. On top of that, the air is brutally cold and bone dry. -50 or worse. So engineers had one move: compress it, cool it, clean it, and condition it before it ever touches your face. And here's the twist most travelers never see coming. That air starts inside the engine. Yes, the same turbines pulling in massive gulps of outside air. Before fuel touches it, that air passes through the compressor stage, gets squeezed tight, and a portion gets rerouted into the plane's air conditioning system. That's genius engineering. The engine already does the hard work, so the cabin just taps in. But there's a catch. When air gets compressed, it gets hot. Basic physics. We're talking 200 to 300 degrees Celsius. So this isn't fresh breeze, it's superheated energy. And you definitely can't breathe that. Which means the system doesn't just move air, it transforms it. First, cooling. It passes through heat exchangers. Think oversized radiators, dumping most of that heat overboard. But at high altitude, normal cooling fails because the air is too thin. So planes use something called an air cycle machine. Here's how that works. Compress the air even more, then let it expand fast. Expansion crashes the temperature, sometimes below freezing, from engine hot to ice cold in seconds. Now that cold air isn't pumped straight to you. Instead, it blends with recirculated cabin air. That old air gets pulled out, pushed through hospital-grade HEPA filters, trapping 99.9% of particles, dust, bacteria, most viruses. So the truth? You're never breathing completely fresh outside air. You're breathing a carefully filtered mix of new and recycled. Why? Efficiency. Stealing air from the engines burns more fuel. Recirculation cuts that load. And here's another hidden layer. High-altitude air carries extra ozone, a reactive gas that can burn your airways. Before air reaches you, it passes through an ozone converter, which breaks ozone into normal oxygen. Modern systems remove 90 to 95% of it. What feels natural up there is actually a miracle of control. Let's talk temperature again. After all that cooling, the air is freezing. So the system reheats it by mixing back a little hot air, balancing hot and cold to keep the cabin around 20 to 24 degrees Celsius. And pressure? Engineers don't try to mimic sea level. That would stress the fuselage too much. Instead, they pressurize to the equivalent of 1,800 to 2,400 meters above sea level. Safe for most, but you might feel drowsy or parched without knowing why. But aviation plans for failure. What if the cooling system dies? Then the aircraft skips some cooling steps, but only at low altitude. Up high, the air is still too thin. So the procedure is simple. Descend below 3,000 to 4,000 meters, where outside air becomes breathable enough. That's the golden rule of aviation. Any abnormal situation has a clear, trained response. Now imagine the plane is parked at the gate. Engines off. Where does the air come from? That's the APU, Auxiliary Power Unit. A small turbine in the tail. It runs independently, providing electricity and compressed air. Same process: suck, squeeze, cool, filter, deliver. So even with main engine silent, you still get airflow and cooling. From the ground to the sky, layered backups make flying one of the safest ways to travel. And from your seat, you never see any of it. You just sit, sip your drink, scroll your phone, while an invisible engineering masterpiece runs constantly at 35,000 feet. You aren't surviving up there on your own. You're surviving because that system works with insane precision every second. If you want the full picture, how all these hidden systems come together, check out my video on the most common questions about airplanes. And if this kind of deep dive makes you see flying differently, hit like and subscribe too. Exhaust zone.